10 people missing.
Sir, I had a question.
Yes,
Okay.
Vishnu, please speak up.
So, what can you please differentiate the functions of kinetochore and centromere? Uh,
Yeah, that also I'll tell you. Don't worry. Don't worry. Um, so I'll start with the cell division itself, right? So that I can tell you the kinetochore and centromere function. I have a very nice picture of them also, the centromere, kinetochore. I'll just share that as well. I'm on this book, just need to show you. Just so but I'll just copy this and just show you. I think I can start projecting presentation mode. Yeah. So this is the thing we already have seen that in the class we discussed what is binary fission, and so there kinetochore centromere doesn't have much of things to do because there is only one point of origin where the DNA is replicated, start replications. That point is important. And second, how the protein which finally directs because of its own self-assembling and polymerization, self-polymerization, it actually makes a constriction, and that's how it separates two portions of a cell. That's what binary fission is all about. And in case of eukaryotic cell division, that is the mitosis, we just noticed that there are multiple levels of changes in the chromosome itself, and that directs different, that tells us multiple phases of it. So we can normally term the cell divisions as there are many ways of writing it. We can say interphase. Interphase is the pre-prophase one. That I'll just show you, not now immediate. Interphase, then pro-metaphase or interphase, prophase, prophase where the um, chromosomes are slightly being condensed. You will see thin threads, and then pro-metaphase, you see the chromosomes directly, thick chromosomes, but still they are in the nucleus. Metaphase, nuclear membrane is all gone, and the chromosomes align themselves in a plate. We can call it a metaphasic plate. That is determined by the, we all know that, by the micro tubules, okay, and which actually forms a spindle-like shape. So then we have this anaphase when this chromosomes are separated, and then telophase. When we really see the chromosomes here, I mean, it's an animal cell one. Last time I just showed you this one, but this one looks better, I would say. Important thing is that each chromosome, as we see, the chromosome is the main thing which are really taking a different shape and size in the different cell division stages. Then we should know what are the portions and parts of the chromosomes. When you really see this chromosomes are like this, I just said it's X-like. And in real world also you see a X-like appearance it is. And this chromosome, the central part of the chromosome is called the centromere. Okay, but the centromere can have two portions of proteins here, assembly, protein complex we can say. These are called kinetochore. These are the attachment sites for the microtubule. There is some motor protein. I mean, you do not have to learn all those things, but see, when we define a portion, there has to be some chemical changes and some molecules there also, which can be involved, which is directing the thing. So there is some clip-like protein which actually holds the microtubule ends. Okay, and in fact, it simply doesn't holds the microtubule. It also gradually chops off the pieces of microtubule off, and so that it can move upward. Right. So now, when we see there are two portions of the chromosomes, we call them as sister chromatids. We just saw binary fission, that individual DNA molecule is copied to another DNA molecule. Okay, then we have cytokinesis. That is what happened. In case of eukaryotes, we have chromosomes, but the copying of DNA happens way before the cell division starts. And the DNA itself had made individual chromosome actually as a single DNA strand. That single DNA strand has made a copy of it so that it will get another of the same length. Okay, another chromosomes of the same length. Okay, and we can call them as a dyad, meaning two chromosomes are almost they are joined together with this centromere. There are some proteins in the centromeres, and the kinetochore is of course there, which will help them to go away, move away from each other. Okay, they will almost look like a conjoined twin. So in case of when we see the telophase, this X shape is no more X shape, and this has changed. You see this because this portion is broken now, and this respective kinetochores have pulled their chromosomes into respective directions. This is a difference. This is the answer to Vishnu's question, that what is the role of kinetochore and where is the centromere. All are in the center, but kinetochores are present in more towards the microtubule side. They are more functional, they're more active, like they can work continuously for the motion of their chromosomes. Okay, so here you see these are the steps. In prometaphase itself, you can see the kinetochore starting to appear in the centromeres. Okay, and then this is the spindle. This is the fluorescence image. We have seen that last class. It's not your chromosomes are actually glowing green or blue. We are actually we have done some trick here, because individual molecules are kind of a different molecules, so we can catch these molecules and make them glow with fluorescence, and that's how we are able to see different colors. DNA will glow differently so that the chromosomes will be blue in color. The spindle fibers and microtubules will grow green. And importantly, when you see this anaphase here, this cohesion protein which binds the sister chromatids, which is main part of the centromere, is broken now. Okay, and then the sister chromatids go away from each other, and then the spindle fiber lengthens its otherwise. So we know that the cell division majorly, these steps you must have learned in your school itself, so not a problem. So let me again summarize. Interphase. This is the pre-cell division stage. Prophase, these are the most important phases you need to remember. Prometaphase, even there is question, I'm not going to ask you here. Metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and then the last division is cytokinesis, because without cytokinesis, you may end up in in a single cell having two varieties of two nucleus. And that is also very much possible in our evolutionary history. Many times your rice grains and wheats, maize, crop, they in the evolutionary history, they they actually did not do cytokinesis that very time. That's why their chromosomes all of a sudden doubled, chromosome number doubled from their ancestor. So this is another kind of a evolution, and a completely different organism generated, right? So cytokinesis is also very important. One important thing we see here is the framework for the chromosome to move and the overall structure to be there for the organelles to move. We need the microtubule to form a cage or framework to do that. Else it will not happen possible. If you simply dissolve the microtubule and do not allow them to uncouple, or this is how this tubulins are uncross-linking. They will be forming another tubulin thread somewhere else, microtubule thread. But here individual tubulins are coming out, and so that microtubules are broken. So if you do not allow them to break out or do not allow them to make that microtubule, you can stop cell division altogether and may end up in having multiploid organisms like this. Okay, this is about mitosis, and this we have learned, and what happens to other organelles we just learned here. Here also it is some nutshell is given that all other organelles also follow the tracks of the microtubules, and they separate with the cell, with the chromosomes. And finally, they leave a blank space in between. And that blank space only had a thin lining of the microtubules, which finally creates the helps in finally making the cytokinesis. Okay, this is a transmission electron microscopy image. You see this of two cells dividing, and in the late telophase or cytokinesis stage, where the two cells are getting separated from each other. Another question, last class, even I asked that question, that if all cells are dividing, cells, they can divide. If all cells are dividing, then why we aren't growing every day? Why after some height our growth has stopped? Okay, so this is a pertinent question. So this answer comes from another aspect of the cell division, that is the cell cycle. Meaning cell cycle, meaning the overall lifespan of the cell and what it does. Okay, we know that when it enters the cell division stage, it has to divide into two cells. Fine. Is this process a cyclic one? Yes, the process is a cyclic one. And if we really take time as a factor, you see the maximum time cell stays in this interphase stage. Even if they are in a repeated division, cells, they are dividing, they are not stopping. Even if this is a condition, then as I said, that some cells take doubling time for 30 minutes, that binary fission itself I am saying. For mammalian cells, it may take 24 hours or 50 hours, depends. Mammalian cells meaning cells from our body. They may take different timings. The time is actually taken for preparation for the cell division. It's not when they enter the mitotic phases, like prophase, it has to finish. It's very easy. It has to finish within that stipulated time. Finally, cytokinesis happens. Two cells comes out. Individual cells again enters the cell cycle, so that they enter the interphase stage. Interphase stage is a preparatory stage. It is defined by three different subphases. G1 phase, that is growth 1 phase. Okay. then growth, then S phase, that is synthesis phase, and G2 phase. G2 phase is very, we can say pre-prophase or pre-prophase phase, you can say that. Well, there is one more phase here. Okay, all cells do not enter the growth phase or cell cycle immediately. They can choose to stay in some intermediate stage, that is G0 phase. Now, when I say what happens to people when they are not growing, what are they doing? The cells are doing. Yes, their cells are not doing anything. Their cells are simply focusing on working, meaning processing, getting signals, giving signals back. And that means they are not engaged in dividing. For example, some of the heart cells, yes, they do not divide. Not all heart cells, yes. Brain cells, your nerve cells, they don't actively divide. You have in the core, your bone, there is a osteocyte cell. They don't divide. We can call them, they are existing in the G0 phase. Okay, that means they do not wish to divide, but they, because of them, our organ systems are working, because they are majorly functioning on working. Okay, this G0 stage, we may not see it much in prokaryotes. So that is one of the things which differentiates eukaryotes from prokaryotes, so that with this G0 phase, we can actually think of having an advanced level of organization, so that the types of work can be divided among different kinds of cells, which actually are willing to take up different works, not simply dividing their own kind on and on. Okay. So this stage we also called as a quiescent stage. If this answers Vishnu's question, quiescent stage. Okay, quiescence meaning sleep. Okay, doesn't mean the cells are sleeping. If they are not dividing, they are working. It's not they are sleeping, but you cannot see them working. Like yes, if you have chemicals, you have proper tags, you can see what are the chemical functions they are doing, metabolism they are doing. But other than that, you don't see visibly changes, because the cell will sit like this. Sorry, I'm drawing here. Cell will keep on sit like this, and it will not give out another cell. So we say the cell is in quiescent state. We can say that. Okay, or we can say they are in a G0 phase of the cell cycle. It is again a defined phase, but we can call this as a point rather than a big. But if the cell decides to divide, okay, it has to enter to the G1 phase, and each places do have in the cell cycle. Why we knew there was a cell cycle thing, but later on there are a lot of Nobel Prize awarded on defining the stages of cell cycle. They define that each stages are demarcated by some checkpoints, and each checkpoints are guarded by some proteins. As I told you, there are if cell would have been a room or a classroom, furnitures, everything is proteins actually, other than walls. So every functional thing, even your projector, your PC, they are protein. So everything is made of a protein. So of course, the checkpoints, the probably you must have seen this, the rod which falls down in checkpoints or toll plazas, which doesn't allow the cars to go away or pass through. So similarly, this protein gives a checkpoint, and these protein can give a checkpoint from G0 to G1 transition, from G1 to S phase transition, from S to G2, and of course from G2 to mitotic divisions transition. Okay. So when I say mitosis, then mitosis and cytokinesis. From mitosis to cytokinesis, there are some checkpoints too. So this is how it works. Okay. So when you really define this, fluctuations in the activity of different proteins, Some Nobel Prizes were awarded. So they found that when cells are dividing, they found this particular protein MPF and another protein called cyclin. Their concentration actually fluctuated during these different cell cycle phases. MPF protein and cyclin. And they saw that during mitosis phase only, exactly, the MPF starts increasing, and cyclin, their concentration starts accumulating from the S phase itself, but in mitotic phase or the M phase, it peaks up, meaning it's the highest concentration in the cell, inside the cell. And then it drops severely, abruptly. This is how it works. Like I'm talking about a single cell, and it's temporarily being regulated in with two proteins, and temporarily mean temporally, that is regulate being monitored through time. And you see this is one complete cell cycle. This is another complete cell cycle. I'm not showing how much the density of DNA and these things change. The density of DNA, you just saw that in the mitosis phase, you saw that the DNA number of chromosomes are the same, you see here, but the DNA quantity has already doubled in the prophase interphase itself. Now, once the telophase happens, the DNA quantity becomes normal. Before that, in the other mitotic phases, even in other mitotic phases, you see the DNA quantity of the cell is double the normal quantity, because each chromosome has its copy sister. Okay, so the total number of DNA has the total amount of DNA has changed. So where do they do the synthesis actually in the cell cycle? If you really see that, they do the changes here in the S phase. You see, the largest portion of a cell cycle is the S phase. Okay, if we are not considering the G1, G1 is an offshoot, G0 is an offshoot. So G1 and S phase are the two largest sections. G1, they majorly that time when I'm talking about a portion of the cell cycle, it's not piece of cake. I'm talking about the time. Okay. So when you see this timing, G1 phase, they majorly invest, the cell majorly invests in repairing their microtubules, collecting, eating more food, and generating the more number of proteins which actually had been divided. More amount of ribosomes it is trying to generate. It will try to generate the organelles which had been lost to get the similar volume of organelles. At least for functioning, then of course double volume of organelles for division. So for G1 phase, it will just get enough amount of organelles which is required for the cell to go into replication of the DNA. The nucleus then enters into the nucleus portions that enters into the synthesis phase, the S phase, where the DNA is replicated. So as I say, in human being, there are 46 chromosomes and 23 pairs of chromosomes, we can say, but pairs are equally relevant. Individual numbers are equally relevant. So the DNA quantity in 46 chromosome has to be doubled now, and has to have the DNA quantity of almost 92 chromosomes. In the S phase itself, the replication of DNA happens, because in eukaryotes, the DNA replication is a very guarded mechanism. DNA is read, DNA is replicated, then they do have proofreading things, so that there is less chances of error. So it takes time. And of course, the number of DNAs are, if I'm talking about replication of almost 3 billion base pairs, it has to be copied. So without any error. So that takes time. Time as in it's not infinite. within the cell cycle time of 24 hour or 12 hour, whatever the cell cycle time is, the cell will be able to accomplish it, not a problem. So this is about, now we'll discuss about some of the checkpoints. Where do we get to know the cell cycle and the quiescent stages and all? While we were culturing, some cancer cells we can culture in the Petri plate. We can allow them to grow like you grow plants in your gardens. We can take cells out of your body and we can grow in Petri plates. That's the basic idea of in vitro fertilization. They take the egg from mothers, and from fathers they will collect the sperms and they will fertilize. The doctors do that. They fertilize in this Petri plates, and once the zygote is formed, the embryo is formed, they will allow the embryo to divide up till some cell stage, then only they will implant it into the moms, in the uterus of moms. So similarly, with these techniques, we can also culture cancer cells, various kinds of mammalian cells in our body, in the Petri plates. One important thing we just learned while culturing is that once if there is one cell, it becomes two cells, and gradually it will cover the plate. Okay. The point is that the cells aren't allowed to grow on each other. Okay, just see this. Once they have a full coverage of the plate surface, they will stop growing. Surprising, right? When you give them a limited area to grow, they will stop growing, and immediately we can say that they went into the quiescent stage, right? If you create some gap in that, suppose you put a scratch on the plate, okay, and take off few cells off, the gap will be filled back. Again, the cells will stop growing. Again, meaning dividing. So the thing is very dynamic. This is how the experimentally people saw that, and that's how they found the different checkpoints of the cell cycle. The first checkpoint, of course, is the cyclin, as we just saw. These are the two proteins, MPF and cyclin, which is discussed here. In the whole cell cycle, in the first stages, right from the S phase itself, the cyclin will start accumulating. Other than the cells which are synthesizing DNA, it also keeps on accumulating cyclin protein. That means the DNA which is responsible for the cyclin gene is functioning. Okay, and probably after that the two pairs of DNA will, sorry, one pair of DNA will be there, so more amount of cyclin can be produced also. So here is the cyclin, and there is this, the cyclin has to bind to the CDK. There is another protein called CDK protein. Then only it can, from S phase, it can come to the G2 phase. Okay, there is the CDK checkpoint. So once the cyclin level exceeds to some, some limit, then they start binding to CDK. So from that they can escape the S phase and they can enter the G2 phase. The G2 phase, the surge of MPF protein happens, and things are very much interlinked. There are, you can say, hundreds of protein involved here. I'm just trying to tell you some proteins which are very, very responsible. Like if you delete those proteins or ask the cells not to produce those proteins, then the whole cell cycle will be destroyed. There are many other proteins which are responsible like that, but I'm just making it simpler. Okay. So CDK binds with the cyclin. You see, this is a lock and key kind of fitting, and so now we have this. Sorry, cyclin binds with the MPF protein here, and MPF is being produced, and that once MPF is produced in enough number, then this it will go into the M phase. In the M phase, categorically the cyclin has to be destroyed, or else the cytokinesis and things will not be able to happen. So the cyclin is destroyed and degraded, and then and which are the devices which can degrade this these kind of unnecessary proteins? We just saw that proteasome complex in the video. Remember that? That's a large protein, and that eats up this cyclin. You know, that's the garbage truck come recycle bin of the cell. So the cyclin is being chopped off into individual amino acid for the further making of another cyclin state. So now the CDK is free, and then it enters the G1 phase. Okay, so cyclin picks up, then it binds to MPF protein. MPF protein, allows the mitosis to happen. Then we have degradation of cyclin. MPF is again probably the first thing. It is the cyclin is degraded. MPF is again let loose. Then it enters the G2 phase. This is how the overall thing happens. Now, what happens to the chromosomes itself, like in different phases, prophase, metaphase, in the interphase and S phase, what is exactly from S? I'm talking now in the G2 phase. Now, G2 phase of the interphase actually is majorly used to make the chromosomes out of the DNA string. So this DNA string just had replicated in the S phase. Now they are again repackaged with the histone protein. This is the histone protein, and the threads becomes knotty in nature, meaning knots, a lot of knots in between. And then this histone protein, tries to like magnets, they try to twine with each other, and then they make us another second level of coiling system, second level of compaction. This level of compaction again undergoes another, there are some scaffolding proteins which again folds this chromosomes together, this threads together already, which is twined, and then the scaffolding protein allows further compaction. More scaffolding proteins join there, meaning gluing or scaffolding protein, whatever you can say. And finally, it can end up in a very thickly stained, thick chromosome. And I was showing you, this is the karyogram of human chromosomes. In the metaphasic plate cells, the chromosomes looks like this. This is a different banding pattern. We can call it as a karyotype or karyogram of human chromosome. You can see there are how many pairs? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So there are 23 pairs, and individual one part, this human has got it from its mom, another part it gets it from the father. And definitely this is a male person, because we see this is the sex chromosomes. Here, this is the X chromosome, this is the Y chromosome. Y chromosome is a shorter one. So you see this, and you see different length of these chromosomes. Karyograms are meant to make with the different length of chromosomes also. Now later on, we just found that individual chromosomes have different number of genes also. You see this? These are the number of these chromosomes. Chromosome 1, and we actually refer to as chromosome 1, okay, which is the largest, longest chromosome. Then chromosome 2, 3. So it depends on the number of amount of the length also. There is this number of genes, and of course the total base pairs. MBP for a million base pairs. You see here, million base pairs. So the chromosome 1 has almost 400 million or 450 million base pairs. Sorry, here million base pairs is green. It's 2,500 base pairs, 2,500 million base pairs, and it has got 4,500 genes. Okay, so gene meaning a stretch of DNA, which can be copied in the form of a rRNA, messenger RNA, sorry. And this messenger RNA can, once it is translated to a protein, it will completely give out one particular protein. So that's what one gene responsible for one protein. There are other theories also, one gene responsible for multiple protein also. That means you can copy different portions of the genes. A single gene can have different portions selectively being expressed or copied at different times for translation of protein. That is also possible. So in the central dogma and chemical basis of biology, we will learn about that. This is about cell division, where during this chromosome formation, normally the genes do not express at all. Okay, because for expressing and to be able to copy it, these two strands of DNA has to come apart. Okay, they have to make a fork out of it, and then they can be copied in the form of a micro mRNA. The labels of organization and all we'll learn in the next class. That would be all for today. I hope it was useful. If you have got any other doubts, you can ask.